How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Adams Brothers podcast. We are here this evening with Michael Ahearn. He is an attorney. He's an attorney here in Broward County, and he is going to be running for county judge in the 17th Judicial Circuit Court, group number 15. Michael, like I said, he's also an attorney. He has his own law firm, Michael G. Ahearn, PA. He also has his own business called Ahearn Dispute Resolution, ADR, if I'm correct. And he's also a retired political consultant. And we'd like to welcome Michael Ahearn, G. Ahearn, to the Adams Brothers podcast. Welcome to the show, Michael, and thank you so very much for coming on our show.
Gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity. As we discussed, I'm as they always say on talk radio, first time caller, long time listener, and I have been a long time listener of your show. Your podcast actually inspired me about 6 months ago to dabble in me and my buddy did our own little podcast, doing some pizza. We were doing a little pizza reviews and some talk about some things in the community, and it was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, when I decided to do this endeavor for judge, I had to shelve that for now. But you guys really inspired it. I really enjoy your show. I've encouraged other people to watch it and other candidates to reach out to you to you give everybody a fair opportunity. And there's really nothing else like it in Broward that in the YouTube podcast format that does what you do. And I think myself and the community thank you for what you do.
Well,
thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so very much for even wanting to come on our podcast and speak with us and talk to us. And we really appreciate you following us and watching our content. And we really appreciate you and, for turning people on to our podcast. We really appreciate that. I can't thank you enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
So you're going to be running for county judge in the 17th Judicial Circuit Court, Group 15. So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up at and what made you want to become an attorney and what makes you now want to run for county judge. So just tell us a little bit about you. Tell our viewers a little bit about you.
Thank you. And I'm a lawyer, so if I tend to run long, you can ring the bell. So listen, I think again, I know you gentlemen are from Deerfield, so you can appreciate what I'm about to say. I was your neighbor to the south. I grew up in, like I said, what I call unincorporated Pompano, because there's a big difference. As I joke, somebody said to me, "What does that mean?" And I said, I said, what it means is, I said, there's Pompano proper, which is, basically right around, like J.C. Park and over there by Kester Field and all that. That's beautiful area of Pompano. And then again, when I was growing up, there was unincorporated Pompano, which was Loch Lomond, and I grew up in Crest Haven, and those were those neighborhoods. And he said, and so that's why I always joke. I made clear I grew up in unincorporated Pompano before my neighborhood was actually incorporated into Pompano. And so I grew up there. I went to St. Elizabeth's for grade school, then went to Cardinal Gibbons for high school. I was, I guess, unfortunate because, my parents were able to, get me to private school, but only because, at the time in the 80s, my father had passed away, and I was still fortunate enough under Social Security to receive his benefit. And my parents, they worked hard and they took every dollar that I got from that Social Security and put it towards my education. And my God, I owe them every day for that. So I was fortunate enough. I went to Cardinal Gibbons High School. I was not the best student. I was a great social person, but I was not the best student. But let me tell you, I was the low income kid in a school full of people who were, came from affluent families. And I never begrudged it to anybody. It inspired me. My friends' parents inspired me to go on and do the things as a profession that I've done. I never begrudged anybody. I was never jealous of anybody what they had. I appreciated their parents and what they worked for, and my friends and what they've ultimately done and worked for. I'm proud of all of them. When I was in high school, I've disclosed this freely. In 1989, I was involved in a traffic felony. Did not involve drugs. It did not involve alcohol. I panicked. I left the scene of an accident where someone was injured. It was the wrong thing to do. I was very fortunate. My parents assisted me. They got me a good lawyer who ironically gave me my first job after law school and has endorsed this campaign. And, I was placed on 5 years probation. I did 2.5 years. I didn't violate probation. I was asked to keep a B average. I did. I started out, again, academically coming out of Cardinal Gibbons, I didn't have great grades. I had to go to BCC, Broward Community College, as it was called then. I did 1.5 years there, almost 2 years. And then I transferred to Fordham University in New York City. I graduated from Fordham University and then went on to St. Thomas University School of Law. Going back to what I dealt with when I was innocent, I was on paper. We know that phrase. I was on paper for 2.5 years. Let me tell you, I understand the good and the bad of it. I had some good probation officers and I had some unpleasant probation officers. And I think that that's going to give me a perspective when I'm on the bench that very few people have. And I understand what it is. Listen, I said but I was joking with a group the other day, and I said to him, I said, listen, when I was on probation, those were the great years of the University of Miami football. I mean, I used to love going down to those games, and and Sunday mornings I'd come, they'd be at my house waking me up at 7 a.m. What are you doing? I'd be like, here I am, man. Listen, I understand the system, and again, I've been in it, and I've been a lawyer. So again, going back to my career, I had the ability, ironically, the judge who sentenced me, he has endorsed me. J. Leonard Fleet is a retired judge here in Broward. He's now a mediator in Orlando, and he endorsed my campaign. I actually have 6 retired circuit court judges that have endorsed my campaign. Well, I'll touch on that a little bit, but I'm very proud of the fact that, again, my lawyer and my judge in that case endorsed this campaign and have been there for me over the years. They've been great people. Going back to, I graduated St. Thomas University Law School. I think what's notable with that is when you have issues in your past as a person applying to become a lawyer, it is usually common for the bar to reserve and not allow you to become a lawyer on day one when you're eligible. Luckily, because I was so transparent in everything in my past, day one, I was permitted to pass the bar. I was permitted to have a license. I never got held up one day. And lawyers, again, lay people may not understand that, but lawyers understand that that's an accomplishment. That means that I did the right thing. I put it all out there. They viewed it. They didn't have an issue with it. They saw I got on with my life. And, fortunately, I went to work for a firm called Shepard and Lescar. I've never been, I never had not to say many friends were prosecutors. That really wasn't for me. I had the opportunity to go into a civil firm that also did some criminal. And, they it was an interesting situation because that firm was transitioning from a litigation firm to a real estate firm. And, they brought in me and another attorney and they gave us as I like to joke, they gave us the keys to the Ferrari. I mean, we were running a litigation practice as young lawyers, and it was the funnest time of my life. I was doing criminal cases on you could be appointed on cases back then by judges. And, I was taking any and every case, and, I was trying cases, I was trying non-juries and jury trials, and it was one of the funnest times of my life. And then luckily after 3 years, the firm kind of said to me, we really don't want to do litigation anymore. And they said, Mike, it's time, you're a good enough lawyer, you can do it on your own. And I did. And I opened Michael J. Ahearn, PA. And then subsequently to that, opened my mediation arbitration company. I've had both of those now for almost, again, the law firm for about almost 20 years and the mediation company, I believe, for 15. I have probably presided in mediations and arbitrations, probably over 3,000 in county court and circuit, but primarily in county court, which is also where I am seeking to become a judge. So again, that's another area of experience that I have that I think is unique to others in my race. That I've been I have presided, I presided as a mediator, presided as an arbitrator. And even as an arbitrator, I got to make, evidentiary rulings and decisions like that. In my time as a lawyer, I've always been fascinated with politics. My first job in law school was I was actually the first law clerk to then Mayor Fort Lauderdale, Mayor of Fort Wilton Manors, Jack Seiler, and subsequently I worked with him on his campaigns. He became state rep and Mayor of Fort Lauderdale for 8 years, and I was his first law clerk, and he's been my mentor. He was the best man of my wedding, and I had the opportunity to work with him and coming up, and taught me how to not only be a lawyer but how to be a good man, and I owe him the world. And from there, I got into politics. I began to run judicial races and some other races, and I'm fortunate to be very successful at it. And then, again, deciding to run for judge, I decided to retire from that business, and it was a great run. It said 10 plus years, had some great successes. Hey, had some losses too. And I learned, listen, I am the first one. I always say, I wear my losses, I wear my downfalls as a badge of courage, because they are the greatest learning experiences I have. I learned from my mistakes, and I've made the corrections and been better for it. So he said, I did that. I've been married to my wife, Megan, for over 12 years. We have 4 rescue dogs that, again, I jokingly say, when you get over 2 dogs, they run the house. You don't run the house anymore. So that's, again, they're the loves of my life. And, again, I was a lawyer for a long time, and I've always wanted to do this. My mom, who unfortunately I had to put into a memory unit in the last year, this was her dream for me too. And it just kind of all fell into place. And, Judge Solomon retired, and it made it this an open seat. And, I decided, listen, I had a great time assisting others in becoming judge and helping their dreams come true. And, my wife signed off on it, and we agreed that I was going to do the same. And, I've been blessed to have the endorsements of 6 retired circuit judges. I've had the endorsement of Police Benevolent Association, Fraternal Order of Police, the Council of Firefighters. And, I like to say that, one of the reasons, I'm asked about my endorsements, and I say specifically about the police endorsement, I say, why? And why is this? I have this badge in my wallet because I've been an FOP attorney. I've done work for PBA, and that badge means the world to me. And unfortunately, I have to have it because there was a time, again, when I was more active doing that line of work. If people don't know, every time an officer in Broward County discharges a gun, a lawyer is asked to be present, to be there for that officer. And I, unfortunately had to be there on a few occasions, and, had to have the badge to, identify myself. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the work. I think, again, those endorsements, the PBA and the police and the fire, listen, I was always there for them, and thank God, when I needed them now, they're there for me. And I'm very proud to, represent them in this endeavor. Again, I've got a number. You can go on my Facebook page. I jokingly say, my Facebook, my wife likes to say, what are you going to put out there today? And, I think probably my Facebook page, I'm not going to say I'm better than worse than everybody else, but I think it's probably more informative about who I am as a person, as a man in my life, my personal life, my professional life. I from my childhood on, I put my memories and thoughts on things. And listen, if I'm going to run for judge, I want to be as transparent as possible, and I want y'all to know who I am. And if you make a decision on me, good. You're going to know who I am. You're going to know who I believe, because I believe that, it's unfortunately today, whether it's elected officials or judges, you don't always maybe get the picture. And then, they do things later on, and you pause and you're like, oh, maybe if I would have known this or would have known that, I would have done differently. Because listen, if you don't like what happens, if you elect a judge here in Florida, you're stuck with them for at least 6 years. And there's no recall. We're not California. We're not other states like that. You're in for 6 years. And, considering that, I can tell you the return rate of incumbent judges is well over 90%. If you make the mistake now, you can make the mistake for a long time to come. I know I've have gone on here a little bit, and you're here to interview me. So I appreciate the time. Let me give you my truth, and I hopefully I'll love to answer some of your questions.
No, that's fine. Well, we want you to tell, our viewers and the people that's going to potentially vote for you. We want you to tell them about you and, what you're about, because, like you say, when you vote for these judges, once you vote for them, they're there, and, you want to make sure you vote for the right person, when you go to those polls. And, just talking to you, you seem like a very people person, and you're a local guy, Pompano. And you even mentioned to me off camera that you were also endorsed by some people that we know here locally. I know you remember mentioned Terry Scott, who's a friend of ours.
Terry Scott's a wonderful community activist there in Deerfield. Vicente Thrower, who's a community activist in Pompano. Walter Hunter, who's a community activist in Pompano. And Percy Johnson of Tamarack, who is an activist as well.
And also Vicente Thrower. I believe you mentioned him as well.
Yes.
All good people. I know most of them, and they're all good guys. So that's good. I mean, so you told us a little bit about you, and I also heard you say that you were a political consultant. Who were you a political consultant for?
Okay. Unfortunately, due to the rules of running for judge, I cannot discuss. I've been told I can't discuss judges who are currently on the bench that I have helped win races for, because again, there's a rule that says that you can't use the luster of the bench to promote a person's campaign. I can talk about other races. Many of them who I've endorsed, who have endorsed me, Judge Tom Lynch, Judge Dale Ross, former Chief Judge Dale Ross from Pompano's own, actually was my first race back in 2010. It was a wonderful experience. He's just a wonderful gentleman. I grew up with his daughter, who is a current sitting judge, who again, we went to high school together. Good people, great family. I worked with Judge Eileen O'Connor, who has since retired. Trying to think, and Judge Larry Seidlin, who's also endorsed me. The judge from the Anna Nicole case, wonderful friend, someone that I worked with over the years. A person who I hadn't had the opportunity to work with, but did endorse me, was Judge Jeffrey Cohen, who is married to our former property appraiser, Lori Parrish, who's also endorsed me as well.
And what are some of the non-judges, people that have you ever work with like that?
I worked with school board member Katie Leach, who had retired and moved to California when her husband got a job opportunity. I worked with others, Jack Seiler in Fort Lauderdale, the mayor of Fort Lauderdale. I was involved with those 3 races that he did. There's another elected official that I can't mention because he currently has an opponent that I grew up with, and I recently helped him, again, and that was I was very proud of that, because it was someone that, one of my buddies that I was shooting spitball with in high school, I helped get elected to a spot. And it was, again, unfortunately, I can't mention his name because he currently has an opponent, but, it was an honor and a privilege to help him out.
Okay.
One judge I want to ask you about, he's a former judge, but his father used to live right next door to us here in Deerfield. His name was Zebedee Wright. I don't know if you remember him.
It's funny, Judge Wright.
His dad lives right next door to us.
He's a wonderful man. I remember when I met him, I actually met him before I was a lawyer. He was a coach. He was a basketball coach at Dillard, and I love high school basketball. And I used to go over those games, and I met him there. I can't think of the one player he had ended up transferred to Gibbons, but no, he's a wonderful man. I have a funny story. He was on the bench just when I first got out of law school, and he was a character. To know Judge Zeb is to know that, he just shot from the hip, and, and God love him. He went through such a tragedy when his wife died in the Delta Airlines crash over Dallas many years ago, and he survived it, did well. But, real brief, I had a case with him. I had represented a company, unfortunately, again, you take your job, you take your clients where you can get them. And, I represented a client who was a finance company, and they financed water softeners. those, they'd come out to your house, they'd sell you the water softener. And then, people, they decide they didn't like it, they didn't want it. And they would get these people, unfortunately, to take mortgages on their house to pay it. And Judge Zeb would look at me and he would point the finger at me and say, don't disparage that young man, because he's just doing his job. The real question is, ma'am, is why? I could see him still doing it. He'd go, why? Why did you put a mortgage on your house for a water softener? I could still hear it in my head. And these people look at me like, Judge, man, I didn't understand, and they, like said, they're like, we understood that we did it, and we thought this was a good thing. But I just can still remember laughing and him just saying, you don't put a mortgage on your house for a water softener. And I just sit there and be like, I'm not disagreeing with that. I can't say that, but I can't disagree with that.
Okay.
Good man.
Interesting. Okay, Mr. Ahearn, if elected to the bench, how would you address the issues of Black and brown defendants receiving harsher and longer sentences than white defendants who have committed the same crime?
Listen, I came up early on as a criminal defense lawyer. As I told you, I've been in this. I was in the system. I understand what it means to be on paper. I've been in those courtrooms. I've seen those jury boxes. I know the predominant complexion of those spaces. I understand that. And all I can say is listen, I'm one prong of the process. There's a state attorney, there's a private, there's a defense lawyer, whether it's a PD or a private lawyer. I am part of a process with them. And like I said, and I believe that I will listen, I will hear. I may not always agree with you, but I will give you your say. All I can say is I just want them to feel that they had their say. And again, I don't see color, never have, never would. Listen, I grew up, I grew up on not the best side of the tracks. I don't see color. I don't care about it. Never have, never will. And I'm going to judge each case individually. Each case is not a file to me. It's a person. It's a life. It's a family. And I've just believed that, listen, I had a great judge that impacted my life, my youth, and I really hope to play it forward, and that somebody will come back one day and say, hey, you know what? You gave me a chance when you sentenced me, and I went on to do great things, and I'm going to say thank you. Thank me. No, I thank you. You did. I'm going to thank them.
Well, that's a good. I'm happy to hear you say that. And the reason I ask you that question is because I personally know someone that two people, friends of mine, that one is white and one is Black. The white person got caught with powdered cocaine, and the Black one was caught with crack cocaine, but the Black one ended up getting a harsher sentence when it was just about the same amount of cocaine. But cocaine, to me, cocaine is cocaine. And that's why I asked you that question. I always ask that question because I never thought that was, right. If you get caught with cocaine, which is at the end of the day is cocaine, how could you get a harsher sentence? And I do understand this other things that, maybe the other person, the Black guy may have had some things in his priors or whatever, and maybe, the vice versa. But I do understand that that's a part of it as well. But if they pretty much have the same background, the same record, not too many priors, maybe one prior apiece, and they get one gets a harsher sentence, I didn't agree with that.
Well, just in brief, addressing that is, again, I think that a lot of what you're talking about, especially, is a little more prevalent in the federal system, which I've never done federal criminal defense. But I'll tell you what I took issue with when I was doing criminal defense when former state attorney Mike Sachs was there, and I don't know if Mr. Pryor has changed this position. I mean, I never really dealt with a differentiation of the type of cocaine, but where I took issue is that, it was just uniform that if you had a possession case, you got 18 months probation. And the problem was that nobody really wanted to hear about circumstances and treatment. And, it was just, 18 months. If they can qualify for drug court, we send them there. But otherwise, you're taking a plea on 18 months even on a first offender. I hope that that Harold Pryor, State Attorney Pryor, is more understanding of these situations, because this is something that's hit home to me. I mean, my two older brothers were, I always say the difference between why I'm sitting here as a lawyer and I had an incredible life is luck, because I had luck, and luck broke my way. Luck didn't. My one brother was smarter than me, the best talker in the family. I grew up loving pro wrestling, and I like to say no one could work the mic better than my brother. He was, again, people think I'm good at it, man. He's since deceased, but he was so much better than me. But he succumbed to addiction, and it derailed his life. So, and I will remember, and again, that's part of my tapestry. That's where I'm going to remember that's part of who I am when I look out in that crowd and I have to look at a plea, or I have to entertain emotion. I'm going to, those are part of who I am. I can't deny that.
Yes. Mr. Ahearn, how many cases have you tried in the last 5 years? How many in front of a jury, and how many with a verdict?
Okay, let me explain that a little bit.
Just a rough estimate.
Trials in the last 5 years, because in the last 5 years, my practice has almost been exclusively in probate, and we don't have jury trials in probate. I have been primarily to be more specific, in the probate arena. I was a guardianship attorney. I represented families and private guardians that sought me to come in and protect their loved ones, their elderly loved ones, or even special needs children who were vulnerable adults who were being exploited. One in particular, and again, and it's interesting because I just spoke with this. There's a woman who is a longtime community activist in Pompano named Dorothy Jones, and Dorothy did incredible things in Pompano. There was allegations that her grandson was abusive. Her daughter was a BSO deputy, and it was funny because I just spoke with her today. We just finished closing out her estate. Dorothy since passed, but what happened is her daughter, Miss Anthony, Deputy Anthony, she came to us and said, "I can't fight my son. I'm too tired. I don't want to, I need you guys to step in and protect my mother." And my private guardian and I, we went in, and like I said, we went in, we made sure that, he had supervised visitation. We didn't want to stop somebody from seeing their grandmother, but there, he was kind of taking advantage of some things, or that was what was alleged. And we went in and we protected her, and we gave her a great life in the last few years that she was alive. And I'm honored to have been that. And I've had the honor of helping many families like that, who I could be able to come in. And because one of the things that I did was I was able to, because I was involved in the criminal system early in my career, and I did civil in my career. I've done every type of law, litigation wise, that you can do in that courthouse. I've done dependency, family, probate. I've focused on probate the last 5 years, and that's where I've loved it. I've loved helping people and protecting people and helping people have great lives at the end of their lives. Or again, with special needs kids, I've assisted them, and when they turn 18, people don't know that when special needs children turn 18, they're as much under the law legally as the three of us. And there is a mechanism under the law. You don't have to have a lawyer, but your parent can file for what's called a guardian advocate for their special needs child. And it gives them the guardianship rights to keep getting the payments from Social Security and protecting them and making decisions for them that they can't make for themselves. And I've been honored. I'm on an exclusive list of attorneys that are appointed by the chief judge to represent children with special needs when their parents come forward to do these things. And I've been honored to be on that list for over almost 20 years. And to what I've done for these special needs children, they've impacted my life far more, in my opinion, than I've impacted theirs. And it's been just an honor to, I've worked with former state representative Susan Goldstein, former school board member Katie Leach. They were people who opened me up and again, even taught me how to address, I had to learn how to address these children. There's, you don't say kid, you say children with special needs. That's the most respectful way to say it. And, like I said, I used to say special needs kids, and that's disrespectful. And now, I'm thankful for the people in the community who have educated me on those issues.
And what is the most pressing issue in the office you are seeking right now as judge?
I think that the most pressing issue right now is just, giving people the ability to have their say and be heard. And, whether in a Zoom setting and they're going back to live court, where every day they're trying to push back to live court. And I think that what it is just, I think the most pressing thing is making sure that people are more than files. They are more than case numbers. They are treated with dignity, respect, and listened to. Again, I may not always agree with you, but you will always say, if I have the opportunity to have a courtroom, when you leave that courtroom, you gave me your say. And you told me why you didn't disagree, why you disagreed with me, or why you agreed with me. And I want them to understand where my ruling comes from. It's not just going to be granted, denied. No, you deserve an explanation. Simple courtesy.
And if elected judge, what would you do to address defendants with mental health issues that come
there's a
before
lot
you?
of great things in the system. There's drug court, there's mental health court, there's veterans court. There's a lot of great resources that assist litigants that have challenges. And I would assist them where I can in getting access to those things through the court system.
Okay. Mr. Ahearn, what are your views on the need for more diversity on the bench in the manner of which the court treats members of different races?
Listen, I've had the privilege of working with some great minority candidates, women and other minority candidates to elevate to the bench. And I'm very proud of that. I believe that, listen, every seat, if I win my seat in 6 years, I am owed nothing. If someone wants to run against me, unfortunately, that's their right to do so. And if I've done something wrong and I need to be called out on, well, listen, the Constitution provides that right. So, I don't believe that incumbents are special, that incumbents, listen, we are all elected to a seat, and every 6 years that seat comes up. And if you've done a good job, then you're not going to get an opponent. If you haven't, then you know what? Then you're going to have to answer to that person. You're going to have to answer to the people. And I do believe that, again, I don't believe that, there should be challenges just because of racial equality. I think there needs to be more. There needs to be something, did the judge do something wrong? And but other than that, like I said, I'm supportive of it. I think I'll be honest with you. There's an American woman in my race, and I look at her and I said, I think I see potential. I think that, again, listen, I want to win my race, but she's a good candidate, and I feel, down the road, I'm not going to be surprised to see that person become a judge. Just hopefully not this time.
Also, if you observed a defendant in your courtroom being poorly represented by an unprepared or ineffective lawyer, how would you handle that situation?
That's a tough situation, because obviously I can't, as a judge, directly call it out. And then, trust me, to know Mike Ahearn is to know it's very difficult for me to keep my mouth shut and not call out BS when I see it.
Can you call him off to a sidebar? Can you call him to a sidebar and kind of correct him a little bit?
Yeah.
You can, but you only have very little leeway to do it. And I said, because the problem is that there's a very fine line of ending up, going from being a judge to going back to being an advocate. And you have to be very careful. I'm not going to say that there's no way to do it, but it's a very narrow window, and it has to be handled very, very delicately.
Okay, and have you ever faced a ethical dilemma, and how did you resolve it if you did?
Fortunately, as lawyers, we have an ethics hotline, and I have utilized that many times. That I've called them and said, "Listen, this is a fact scenario I'm looking at. What do y'all think?" That's my primary go-to. Sure, I've had, I've had ethical, I've had requests to do things from clients and that I haven't, they wanted to do. And it was funny. I just had a conversation with a lawyer today, and they said to me, why are you doing this? And again, I told you in the beginning many reasons why I'm doing it, but one of the other reasons is, I had a client in the recent past who I no longer represent, and I just got to the point where, there was some requests for things that I didn't really feel comfortable doing, and I really just realized, I said, you know what, I loved representing clients, I loved it in this arena, but you know what, I want to move on. I want to move on in new challenges in life and be a judge. And so, yeah, I've had to deal with them. I can't really be specific, obviously can't speak to clients, and I have to be careful in the situations as not to give out facts that would allude to who the clients are. But yeah, I have, and I think all lawyers have, and luckily I'm inclined to believe that most lawyers will do the right thing.
Okay. Do you believe in the death penalty?
I believe in the death penalty. Where I have a issue is in the process to get there. And that I think that, unfortunately, I think that there is a place for it, but I also think that, unfortunately, due to, I think, if the system takes 20 years to get to a resolution, I don't think that's productive. And so maybe needs to be some kind of, maybe we need to go back to incarcerated. If they're going to be incarcerated for 20 years, waiting for them to have a final resolution, then you know what, maybe it's just until the legislature can figure out a way to address it better, then maybe we shouldn't have the death penalty, because again, it's diluting the system.
Okay. And what distinguishes you from the other candidates?
Well, I think first of all, I grew up, I think I've been in Broward the longest of who I've been in. I've been in the community. I've lived here. I've walked amongst you. That's very important to me. I'm probably, if not, I probably have the most endorsements. And let me tell you, as someone who came up as a political consultant, I feel the need to educate people on on endorsements. I say, there's two types of endorsements. There are what I call cocktail party endorsements, which are, well, Jimmy said that Susie is a good candidate and they like them, so I'm going to support them, even though I've never met them, I don't like them, but my buddy likes them. My endorsements are real, as I'd like to say, are genuine. These are people in our community. There's not a person who endorsed me that I would not tell any of you. Pick up the phone. You want to know about me? Pick up the phone and call me and say, how do you know Mike Ahearn? Because all of these people, whether it's guys and women I went to high school with, whether it's women and gentlemen that I served as lawyers with, or in my charitable work, to me, again, going back to what I said about police and fire endorsements, I didn't get them because I showed up to an interview. I got them because I've been there for them and they have been there for me. And that's what I'm most proud of, is that the people in the community have come out for me.
And that brings me to another question. In this climate right now that we're having between the Black Lives Matter protest and social justice protest, I'm not going to even say Black Lives Matter, but do you think, being that you have represented the police unions and they endorse you, do you think if a case comes up between someone that is a victim of police brutality, do you think you can be a fair and partial judge?
Absolutely.
Being that you have, represented the police union before?
Absolutely. Because before I represented the police union, I was on probation. I've been in the system. I worked as a lawyer in the system. I've seen it from both sides. And I think that's a perspective that no one else has. Listen, I've had instances where, again, it didn't, there were times where I dealt with officers where it was, like I said, you had to say, you know what, you made a mistake. Listen, people make mistakes. Officers make mistakes. I've made mistakes, and doesn't make them a bad, as my grandfather taught me many years ago. Sometimes good people make mistakes and they don't need to be hung out to dry for the rest of their lives. And that's a philosophy that, again, my grandfather, I've carried with me all my life. So no, I believe I can be an impartial judge and do the right thing based on the facts and law and circumstances which is before me.
Okay, and what do you plan to accomplish if elected as judge? What do you plan to accomplish in your first 30 to 90 days as judge?
Learn how to do it right, because there's a learning curve. I'm a lawyer. I've done a lot of things, but I've never been a judge. And I'll tell you, I think that first 30, 60, 90 days, that's the learning curve. Listen, you got to know this job. You got to come out gunning. There's no pause. Listen, you're sitting on the bench day one, January. You're impacting people's lives day one. If I am lucky enough to get win this election in either August, and it could go to a November primary. Listen, day one, if I get it, I'm on the phone with, judges that I know and people that I know and how to do this job. Because if you can't learn how to do the job right, you're not going to do it right down the road.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's nothing wrong with asking questions. I believe that there's no such thing as a dumb question. So you could call a former judge and ask as many questions as you need to, Right. If it's going to help make you a better judge, then hey, by all means do it. And also, if elected, how would you minimize implicit bias within the judicial systems? And what are your plans to address it?
Listen, I think that I can only address what goes on as I say, in my house. If I have a courtroom, it's my courtroom.
In your courtroom.
I hope that if I am an example to anybody in the system to do things the right way, great. But all I can guarantee you is that, listen, Adams Brothers, I'm going to do the job that I need to do, and I'm going to do it the right way. And that's all I can promise to you and the members of this community is there will be no bias in my courtroom. I see no color, never have. I've been fortunate enough to achieve a level of success in my life, but I didn't get it handed to me. I went and earned it. I had jobs that I was working. Listen, I was working for $3.35 an hour at the age of 13 on. So I understand what it is to live life and to not have, not have the easy life and have privileges that some people have. And I think that that's going to carry over to me. Listen, I can't answer for a system. I can only answer for Michael Ahearn if he's a judge.
Yes.
Well, you seem like a straight up honest guy. I've only been, texting you back and forth this week, and I've heard some good things about you, and I hope those good things that I heard about you, if you're elected, goes over into the courtroom, and again, you seem like you'll treat everybody honest and give everybody a fair chance, because like you said, you were in the system one time and nobody gave up on you and threw the key away and, just lock you up and just say, hey, you're never going to be anything. They gave you a second chance. And I believe everybody deserves a second chance. And I believe you're the person.
And again, like I said, I firmly believe that, you're shaped by your past. And, that past shaped me. And I'm thankful for, listen, I'm not thankful for the accident. I'm not thankful that I injured somebody. I'm thankful that they survived it. But, listen, I learned from it. It was an incredible experience. And, that's who I am. I can't be something I'm not. I never have been. And again, listen, I have my detractors in this community. I'm not afraid you see me here. I'm not afraid to say good or bad. I believe that, in this, in our climate, sometimes, people get a little too, hung up on the word, I just want to listen, you say it straight, you take it, you leave it. Listen, you either like me or don't like me. I can't control that, but I can control what I say and my views and my opinion. And listen, I just keep it simple. I was asked yesterday at an event at John Knox Village, I was asked about, views on restoration of felons' rights. And, I could go on and talk about the nuances of, well, as you know, about, that if you don't pay your fines and that holds you up, but the reality is I keep it simple. And I said, listen, I don't know about y'all, but when I was in school and I took civics, it was, we were taught that there was a system of rehabilitation, and if they did the right things and they led a good life after making a mistake, that you got a second chance. I don't feel that's not complicated. That's not, out of this world thought. It's just, sometimes we should go back to remembering. I think there's an old phrase of, what they taught us in kindergarten. I think we forget that it's just, be kind, be respectful, look at people, don't look at people by their mistakes, look at people by the character that they present to you.
Yeah. You've been very transparent, apparently to us, to me at least, definitely, I know. So, I wish you well in your quest. And if you are elected judge, I would expect nothing but excellence from you. Because you seem like that type of person from what I'm listening to right now. And I would expect nothing but fairness and excellence out of you.
Thank you. And I hope that if I am honored by the voters of Broward County to be elected judge, I hope you guys will be invited to my robing, and I hope you'll be there.
Oh, absolutely. So here's your chance right here to tell the people and the voters of Broward County why they should elect you as the next county court judge in the 17th Judicial Circuit Court, Group 15. Tell the voters of Broward County why they should elect you as the next judge.
Ladies and gentlemen of Broward County, as I've said during this campaign, I'm not a person who likes to talk about themselves, but unfortunately, I can let the people who endorsed me talk about me. And those are the people that this community has trusted. They have tried you. The community has voted on and brought in these elected officials that have supported me. And again, I'm trusted by those who like I said, that's my campaign line, trusted by those who you've trusted for years. And, listen, I have never heard of retired circuit judges endorsing a judicial candidate or any case. I don't believe there's ever been that many. And I am so honored and blessed to have it. My endorsements, but listen, tell you, I jokingly said yesterday when I was at John Knox, they talked about endorsements, and I think that those endorsements, again, speak for our community. These are the people our community has trusted. But I will say, listen, one of the most important endorsements that I have is that, and she's been so helpful in my campaign, my mother-in-law. I got my mother-in-law's endorsement. That woman goes out there, hands out tchotchkes and sells me better than I can sell myself. I joke with my wife and my mother-in-law, people tolerate me, but they love you guys. And that's it, man. I'm just blessed to be surrounded by great people and great influencers in my life who, again, as I tell you, I'm not an island. I enjoy talking to people and listening to people and taking advice from people. Because listen, I'm not the smartest person in the room. I never looked at myself to be that way. And when the voters of Broward County, I believe that I keep it real and that I'm just looking to play it forward and help a community that has been great for me. Listen, I came to this community in 1979. I moved here. I didn't know anybody. My parents retired here from upstate New York. I didn't know anybody. And I have achieved things that my parents and we never could have imagined. And I'm so grateful to this community. And that's why I want to give back to it. Thank you.
Well,
I got to say the line, and again, I'm the former consultant. I forget to say vote for Michael Ahearn on August 23rd.
August 23rd. Okay. And that's August 23rd. And early voting is when? When can you start early voting?
I know that absentee ballots are beginning to drop in July 20th. And I believe it's 10 days out. So August 23rd would be early voting.
All right. Well, I can honestly say that God gave us all 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's for us to listen more than we talk and we speak. So, and I believe that you will be that judge to listen more and talk a little less. And it's good to let the people that's before you, like you said earlier, let them speak and listen to them. And you come across as that judge that would do that. So good luck to you, sir.
Good
and
luck.
thank you so very much for reaching out to us and wanting to come on this
Right.
podcast and talk to
That's right.
us. And you've been following us and our content for a while, and we hope that your viewers, I mean your constituents would also
voters.
follow us, and that's the best
Right.
way that they could do it. If you like our content that we'll put out, that you will go on the Adams Brothers podcast and like our page and subscribe to our channel and hit that bell, and you'll get notified every time we upload a video. And thank you so very much for coming on the Adams Brothers podcast. And when you win, don't forget about us. We want you to come back and talk to us. We want you to invite us into your
swearing in.
In. And when you put that black robe on,
represent with dignity and honor.
Absolutely.
I will. And gentlemen, I just want to take one last second to thank you, because listen, what you do, you're informing this community. And you know, when we go out, when I go to events, whether when I was running campaigns or now, I hear the same thing. Oh, I don't know any of these judges. I don't know this. I don't know that. And that's what inspired me to do a Facebook page that was more open and honest. But you guys inspired me. You guys inspired me to do a podcast, because listen, there should be more people doing what you do in Broward, but you do it so well because you give us the opportunity to know things that we don't know about these judges. You know, listen, I send you a mail piece. I send you what I want to know. But you know what? When I reached out to you and you said to me, Mike, I'm going to hit you with some hard questions. What did I say? Bring it. Because listen, I'm ready to answer the hard questions for anybody. And we should be. And you should be asking the hard questions. And I thank you guys on behalf of not only myself, but this community, because we owe you a debt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good luck to you, sir. We hope you win. And don't forget about us, and then make sure you come back and speak to us and come back on the podcast. And when you're elected to the 17th Judicial Circuit Court in group number 15. We've been talking to attorney Michael G. Ahearn, and we want to wish you the best of luck next month in the election. And thank you so much for coming on the Adams Brothers podcast.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good evening, sir. Have a good evening.
Thanks, guys.